Hello everyone, I am K Purificacion. So this is the continuation of our report, Region 11, Davao Region, which is nasimulan na ni Ate Daniela Santiago. So I am going to discuss to you one of the folk tales in this region, which is the Mandaya Oman Oman, and the two poems, which are An Old Wet Bridge and In Times Like This, and two short stories, which are the story of the first durian and also the love in the corn husks. So the first one here that I am going to discuss to you is the folk tale entitled as the Mandaya Oman Oman or the Buyag na Butingin. Before I read and discuss to you the folktale, what does Mandaya means? So Mandaya derives from man, meaning first, and Daya, meaning upstream or upper portion of a river, and therefore means the first people upstream. So it refers to a number of groups found along the mountain ranges of Davao Oriental, as well as to their customs, language, and beliefs. So now may I just read to you the folktale? So during a famine, so famine meaning tagutom. So during a famine, Bakiwas comes upon a bahi tree, the pith of which is edible. So yung sinasabi dito na pith, based on my research, is yung gitna ng punong kahoy. Like yung sample picture na nakikita nyo sa ibaba. So yung pinakagitnang part ng punong kahoy or nung bahi tree is tinatawag na pith, which is edible or nakakain. So he chops off the branch and discovers that it has a natok. So natok meaning edible substance from the pith. He quickly fetches his wife and together they decide to live near the bahi tree. The next day, an old woman with warts comes by and sees Bakiwas. She asks Bakiwas whether he has been able to collect plenty of natok. Bakiwas answers rudely that it is none of her business. The old woman simply answers that owners have a right to ask. Bakiwas retorts, "What do you expect from a bahi tree that has after its owner?" The woman becomes very angry and leaves. She then chances upon two orphans looking for food. As they are polite, the old woman points to a small bahi tree and teaches them how to collect food. The children follow the instructions and they are happy to find so much food. They offer food to the woman who readily accepts. She then tells the children to leave immediately and proceed to the cave. Should they find anything along the way, they should take it with them and slaughter it inside the cave. Should they observe supernatural, they should keep quiet. Following instructions, the children chance upon a wild boar which they take to the cave. Then they hear the old woman placing a curse on Pakiwas. Explode, explode, rainstorm, explode, and bore a hole in Masara where Bakiwas is, and may Bakiwas be accursed. Rain starts to fall and soon Masara becomes a marshland. As for Bakiwas, he is turned into a crocodile. So Masara is yung place or lugar kung saan nakatira si Bakiwas. So ayun nga, Masara becomes a marshland. Marshland is like yung nakikita nyong image. So naging ganyan daw after nung rainstorm na sinabi nung old woman. And then yung old woman, she put a curse on Bakiwas and naging crocodile si Bakiwas. So, Mandaya Oman-Oman or Buyag na Butingin underscores the virtues of politeness and kindness. Of course, we should be kind or polite to other people, most especially sa mga mas nakakatanda sa atin. When we speak of kindness and politeness, it is more than just being nice to other people. It is how we show empathy, compassion, respect, or courtesy towards other people. Lagi nating iisipin na if we treat other people with kindness and politeness, of course, ibabalik nila yan sa'yo. Kapag na-observe nila na you are a good person, na you are kind, you have respect towards others, you will make them feel happy and you can even spread that positivity or goodness sa mga nakakausap or nakakasalamuha mo. Unlike sa character na binasa ko kanina na si Bakiwas, the way lang na makipag-usap siya sa matandang babae is pinakita niya yung rudeness niya, yung kawalang respeto niya sa mga matatanda. Nagtatanong lang yung matanda, ganun na siya makapag-respond sa kanya. So, wag nating itolerate yung mga ganong pag-uugali. Let's be kind and polite always. Not because they deserve it, not because they have earned it, but because that is who we are and we hold ourselves to a high standard. So as a result, people will also treat you the same and you will receive more than what you expect. So let's proceed to the poems. So sino nga ba si Samuel C. Lasha Jr.? So he was born and raised in the Davao region. His love to see his written works published began in his teen years when he was the associate editor of the high school paper of the St. Mary's School for Boys in Tagum, Davao. As a full government scholar of the Mindanao State University in General Santos City, he was the editor-in-chief of the campus newspaper. So the following poems depict youthful appreciation of optimism amidst the simple but hard life in idyllic rural Davao. At present, he is based in the United States of America, fulfilling his religious missionary works. So I tried to search Samuel C. Lasha Jr. on the internet, but unfortunately, wala po akong ma-search about him. But let's proceed to his literary pieces. So the first poem that is written by Samuel C. Lasha Jr. is entitled as An Old Wet Bridge. Let me just read to you the poem. As the motorcycle was preparing to climb an old wooden bridge, some of us held their breath, some closed their eyes. We who were seated on a sturdy wooden ledge, placed on each side of this moving rural device. The wheels moved past the wet, running board, when suddenly the driver stepped on the brake. The driver swayed as the vehicle roared. An old coconut wood was shattered and raked. The engine screamed as we moved over a more elevated wood, and when once we avoided to skid in a slippery pass. A mother yelled when down fell some of her food, a true misfortune to her hungry little ones. Faces of some passengers were now as white as cocoa meat, but when I looked down at the brown river below, children were diving, celebrating a great, joyous feat. We couldn't help but smile again, signaling the end of a woe. So the second poem that we have here, which is written again by Samuel C. Lasha Jr., is entitled as In Times Like This. In times like this, the wind couldn't be that amiable, its harsh sound and cold touch resembling doom. In times like this, the night couldn't be that lovable, dreadful moments engulfed me in gloom. In times like this, the moss-covered cliff couldn't be that awesome. Its steep, rocky surface I considered a bane. In times like this, the soft feel of the earth couldn't be that wholesome. Stepping on this patch of dirt a little longer and is insane. Yet a sailor takes the wind as a friend, propelling his sheep to a place he wished. The nightingale struggles to sing no end, amidst darkness, conveying hope and peace. The climber aims for the highest mountain, for the higher he goes, the greater is his happiness. The farmer toils the soil amidst the cold drops of rain, for when the earth is wet, the fruits are priceless. So let's now proceed to the story of the first durian, or the hermit's three wishes. So the story of the first durian is written by Boots Agbayani, Pastor. So he is a relatively known name under the movie industry, with various award-winning movies under his name. There is no doubt that he is a skilled screenwriter, especially when it comes to indie films, with movies such as The Mazur and Service, with notable actors such as Coco Martin featuring in it. Boots has certainly earned the reputation. Aside from that, he also has various children books from the Philippines being sold all around the world, showing just how versatile his creativeness is. Despite his name popping up in various books and movies, not much is known about him. Boots has mainly kept to himself and much rather be known of his works rather than his face. Many even believe that Boots Agbayani Pastor is a pseudonym and not his actual name. However, Boots remains credible for his art despite his cryptic identity. Pseudonym means it is a fictitious name or symbol that is used by an author. So, si Boots Agbayani Pastor ay mas kilala sa kanyang mga isinulat, but his real identity is very mysterious. So, napaka-misteryoso nung real identity niya as an author. So, the setting of the story of the first durian is the kingdom of Kalinan in the Visayas and Mount Apo. So, the characters, first is Baromai. He is an old and ugly king. Madayaw Bayho, she is the king's bride and the daughter of Tageb. Tageb is the king of pirates. Matigam, he is the loyal and wisest advisor of the king. Impit Purok, he is a hermit who lived in a cave in Mount Apo. He ordered the king to plant the mixture. Then Pawikan is the king of the sea turtles. Hangi Bai, which is the nymph of air, and the wood nymph, and the king's royal cook. So let me read to you the summary of the story of the first durian. So Baromai struggles to gain his bride's affection. So the king finds a way to make her love him. So Baromai met the hermit with the help of Matigam. So Matigam is the wisest advisor of the king. So the wise hermit, which is Impitpurok, told him to find three things: the egg of black tabon, 12 ladles of white carabau's milk, and the nectar from the flower of the tree of make-believe. So the egg will be used to soften the bride's heart, the milk to make her kind, and the nectar to make her see Barumay as a young and handsome king. So Pawikan, which is the king of sea turtles, Hangibai, which is the nymph of air, the wood nymph, and the king's royal cook helped the king to find those three things. So, after nga nilang mahanap yung mga three things na pinapahanap ng hermit, so the hermit creates a special plant mixture. So, lahat ng pinahanap niyang ingredients sa king is pinaghalo-halo niya to make a plant. So the hermit makes the king promise to invite him as a guest of honor once the plant mixture works. So the plant works and it grew into a durian tree. So yung durian na yon, it had a sweet smell, soft skin, and tastes good. So Baromai brought the fruit to his wife. Then she fell in love with the king after eating it. So after that, the king throws a big feast but forgot to invite the wise hermit. So dahil nga doon, the hermit casts a curse upon the fruit and it turns out to have an offensive odor and covered with horns. So before, according to the story, the durian had sweet smell, soft skin, and it tastes good. Pero dahil nga sa ginawa nung king, the hermit put a curse on the durian and it turns out na nagkaroon siya ng offensive odor and it is covered with horns also. So the theme of this story is perseverance and indebtedness. Perseverance because the king was so persistent to win the heart of his young bride. So ginawa niya lahat. He did everything despite the difficulty just to achieve the love that he wanted. Indebtedness because in any favor or service that we ask from someone, don't forget that we owe that person something. In the story, the king should have not forgotten to invite the wise hermit who helped him to win his bride because he played a big part in his success and it's also an act of appreciation for his service. Kung tinulungan tayo ng isang tao, of course, we should always thank them. Don't be so rude naman na tinulungan ka na nga lang. Parang pagkatapos nun, nakalimutan mo na agad sila. It portrays lang na kilala mo lang ang isang tao kapag kailangan mo lang ng tulong. Parang success mo lang yung iniisip mo without giving credits sa mga tumulong sa'yo para ma-reach mo yung mga gusto mong ma-reach. So, dapat huwag tayong ganon. Matuto tayong tumanaw ng utang na loob, especially sa mga taong tumulong sa atin. Kahit na hindi nila sinasabi or hinihingi sa atin na ibalik sa kanila yon. Kaya sa ating lahat, we should all learn to say thank you or we should learn to appreciate and be grateful to them even kahit sa mga maliliit na bagay because it means a lot. So let's move on to the last short story in this region, which is The Love in the Corn Husks, which is written by Ida L. Rivera Ford. Ida L. Rivera Ford was born in Holosulu. She crossed over to Negros Oriental in 1949 for an English degree at Silliman University. Record toast her as the first editor or Sands and Coral, the school's literary folio. In 1954, she flew to the University of Michigan on a Fulbright grant to secure her master's degree in English. So, The Love in the Corn Husks is one of 5 well-crafted stories for which Rivera Ford won the Jules and Avery Hapgood Prize in Michigan. She taught at the University of Mindanao and Ateneo de Davao University, where she was the Humanities Division Chairperson for 11 years. In 1980, she founded the first School of Fine Arts in Mindanao, which is the Learning Center of the Arts, now known as the Ford Academy of the Arts. So the characters here in the story Love in the Corn Husks is first, Constantina Tinang Tirol. She is the protagonist in the story who was once the helper of one of the rich family in their town. And she is a lady whom married to a bagobo. Second is Senora, one of the richest family in their town and the former employer of Tinang. Tito, he is the son of Senora. Senorito, father of Tito and the boss of Amado. Amado Galuran, he is the truck driver and Tinang's former boyfriend and the one who wrote a love letter. A. Bagobo, Tinang's present husband, and Bagobito, Tinang's baby boy. And by the way, Bagobo were the first ethnic group in Mindanao encountered by the Spaniards at the end of the 19th century. So let's proceed to the setting of this story. So the time is in the mid 1900s. So the geographical location is in the Barrio Mindanao, in the house of Senora, at the drugstore, and at the cornfield. So the social condition is rural life, and the weather condition is sunny day. And also the mood and the atmosphere is good vibes that turned to regret and worries. Let me read to you the summary of this story. So one day, Constantina Tirol, also called as Tinang, visits her former master, Senora, whom she was working for before she got married. While carrying her baby boy, she walks through the entrance of the house of her former senora and meet his former young master, Tito, and the senora. Upon getting inside the house, senora asks her some questions how her married life is together with his Bagobo husband and also how is it to be a mother of a baby boy. Their conversation continues and they reach to the point of talking about the tractor drivers of Senora, especially the one who was good, Amado. After that, Tinang finally tells her former Senora about her intention of being there. The baptism of her baby is about to come, and she wants Senora to be a madrina or a ninang to her child. The relationship between Tinang and her former senora with her family remains good, and so Senora hastily agreed to be so and yet wants to provide baptismal clothes for the baby and the fee for the priest. Before she left from Senora's house, she was told by her that there is a letter for her in the drugstore, which also serves as the post office of the barrio. By that moment, she thought that someone might be dead or maybe that letter comes from her sister. So she hurriedly takes her way home and passes by the drugstore to get the letter. As she continues walking in a muddy road to her way home, she tries to look for a place where she could lay down her baby, hoping that she could read the letter before she arrives home. Finally, she finds a good place where she can stop for a while. There is a kamansi tree, and under of it are scattered corn husks. So she prepares a heap of it using her foot and laid her baby upon it. Then she starts reading the letter. After doing so, she finds out that the letter is a love letter, her first love letter, which comes from Amado, her boyfriend, saying that he does not want to break up with her when he left from the field of Senora without telling the reason why he did so. Time cannot be back anymore. It is already too late that she discovers that Amado still loves her. However, she was not informed that his mother's worst illness made him gone for some time. Instead, Tinang married a Bagobo man whom owns 2 hectares of land. After all, What she does is only to remember her past with Amado until the time comes when she has to live upon noticing that a snake is sneaking towards her baby boy. In the end, she leaves the place without noticing that her first love letter fell down among the corn husks. So the theme of this story is destiny is not a matter of chance, but of choice. And pertaining that true love waits no matter how long the time you will wait for the person you love. So destiny is not a matter of chance but of choice. It simply means na hindi lang nakatuon lagi sa destiny kung ano man yung pwedeng mangyari sa buhay natin, because destiny is something which you create on your own by your own choices and your actions. So don't expect that life will give you something great or beautiful in an instant. Hindi lang basta-basta dadating yung tinatawag nating destiny, kasi tayo mismo yung gumagawa nun. We are who we are today because of the result of what we have done in the past, and we are who we will become based on the choices or decision that we will make. Pero there are some instances talaga na nagkakamali tayo sa mga choices natin. And of course, kapag nagkamali tayo, dapat wag nating isisi sa destiny or sa ibang tao. We should all remember na every action that we make, may kasamang consequence yan. Either good or bad. So kapag nagkamali tayo, we should accept or face whatever the consequence is and be responsible kung ano man yung nagawa natin. Sabi nga nila, nasa huli ang pagsisisi. Kaya we should all think before we act or before we decide something. We should be very careful when it comes sa mga action na ititake natin. And whatever the consequence is, that will just serve as a lesson for us. Based sa kwento, ang pagkakamaling nagawa ni Tinang is when she married Abagobo without waiting for Amado's return. So, ang alam kasi ni Tinang is hindi na siya mahal ni Amado kasi nga matagal nang di nagpapakita si Amado sa kanya. And dun sa letter na galing kay Amado, he expressed his deep love for Tinang, and the letter contained an explanation as to why he was not able to come for 2 years kasi nga nagkasakit yung mother ni Amado. Pero it was too late. It was too late that time kasi nagpakasal na si Tinang sa isang bagobo and may isa na silang anak. And I believe that both Tinang and Amado equally love each other. However, life has a lot of uncertainties. Wala tayong kasiguraduhan. And we cannot be sure what are we someday, and we cannot be sure who are those people we will be living with in the future. For the two of them, it just simply means that they are not destined with each other, not because destiny itself decided it, but rather because they themselves are the ones decided for their own destinies. Sila mismo yung gumawa ng destiny nila. And at the end of the story, the author's symbolism is saying that Tinang chooses to hold the consequences in the decision she made in her life. First, she stands up from sitting countersink, stating that life is essential and she must continue to move forward, embracing the consequences of her actions. So in this story, parang pinapahiwating niya na we cannot turn back the time when it's already ended. So tinanggap na lang ni Tinang yung result ng decision niya. Tinang chose her family and forgetting Amado, like the letter in the corn husks. So that's the end of our lesson for today. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something from our report.